Morning, folks. This is Brian with another session review of Elderath. I got to play last night. It was a bit short, but it's because we got to a place where the GM needed to go, okay, what the bad guys going to do next kind of place. So it actually turned out that the GM had some business stuff he had to take care of, so we started later. And since we had started later, I went ahead and muted myself on Discord, and I was doing some other stuff. And my son, who's also in the game, came down there going, "Hey, Dad, we're playing. Where are you?" Oh, really? Because Discord had connected to my headset, which I did not have hooked up. So, hey, lessons learned. Always watch what you're hooking up to. So I missed the first couple of little bits of exploration. So there's a series of fingers, if you will, in this mine going southwest. And so we've gone through a couple of those. I actually ended last session at the bottom of one where those skeletons rose up out of the spider webbing. Okay, so as we go, so go north, go down, come back, go north again, come back, that kind of thing, for a few things. And in one of the finger things, we found a number of goblin bodies, all desiccated, hanging from webbing from the ceiling kind of deal. And one of the party members is deathly scared of giant spider egg babies. So we cut them all down, make sure they're not spider egg sacs. And check out the bodies. And in one of these bodies, the goblin had a pauldron sewn into his jerkin. And as we're looking at this thing, it looks kind of black as we pick it up. But as we pick it up, stuff comes off. And hey, this is shiny. So Wes kind of cleans it up, takes a look at it, and it's got little swirly marks being engraved and that kind of thing. So it's something a goblin wouldn't have. And obviously looks of some kind of value. So we cut it off the jerkin, stick it in the pack, and off we go. In fact, one of the players is a very small size. In fact, he's the smallest human size you can roll, which is an 8. And so he's asking, hey, can I wear this? And so the DM takes the time to go ahead and roll the size of the thing. It turns out it's the right shoulder pauldron, size 12. Anyway, so we continue north, more cocoons, no egg sacs. Most of them are, at this point, humans, though there are some goblins. And in this one area, Raymond notices that the human did not die from like spider bites, right? It had this hole in its chest. 10 centimeters, which is like 3-4 inches, right? And the internal cavity had all been expanded. So while the organs are still there, they're like pushed outward, right? So there's this hole in the cavity of the chest. And so we start checking out some of the other bodies, and there are 3 more, of which one is a goblin. And so somebody asked about the arcane markings that we found on the skeletons that rose up out of the webbing. None of these guys have got that. And this particular finger in the cavern, if you will, gets really, really low. In fact, the ceiling only gets to be 1 foot. And so Alexander, who's the size 8 guy, crawls down. Just make sure there's nothing down there, right? And as he's going down there, he notices off on the southern end a pool of water. So he kind of reaches in to see how deep it goes, and it goes further than he can reach. So, but he's saying nothing there. So he comes back, go northeast again, more fingers and stuff. And there are alcoves now. Well, they have been throughout, but the alcoves are little spider nests, right? And in this area, there's been a lot of mining activity, or it had been. And as we go further northeast, the ceiling gets even higher. So we can see stalactites hanging from the roof, and or the ceiling, and there's some webbing up there. And then off to the left, there's a rise. It goes up. And there's a beaten path in front of us. You can tell, lots of feet marks and some grooves, ruts, if you will, of the ore carts being dragged through here. No rail, just being dragged through. And so, okay, let's go check it out. So we go up this section. So we're kind of in a new section of the mine. And later on, there's some discussion about, that spider hole with the saddled spider that went up, and there up above there it was an open area. This is about like where that area is. So there's a connection here, we think. Okay, so as we go to this other section, to the south, there's actually a cliff face and a shelf up there. And so Wes is concerned about, goblins being up there, sniping at us. So we send Runt up. He's our climber. And it was just kind of funny because the first encounter we had with him, a combat encounter where he tried to climb a cliff to get the goblins, it took him so many rounds to get up there that the combat was over by then. Oh, fun time. So we tease him about that. Anyway, so he goes up there and get him a torch, and he can't see anything, but there is a cavern, again, going southwestish up there. He only goes down a little bit to check that because we don't get too far away, and we say, okay, I'll go west, following the path. So we're following the path, and Runt is up on top of the shelf following along with us. And it starts to turn a corner, and to the north, there's a passageway going up. So Raymond, always suspicious, goes up just to check out up there. And again, there's more cavern up there, and he sees something on the ground up there, but can't see what it is. So he comes down, and now we're in a little channel, right? It's tight, steep, but it slowly rises until we get to a place that's even with the shelf. And it opens up to the northeast, which kind of goes to where Raymond saw the stuff before. So Raymond and Alexander are exploring north. West, Tindo, and Runt are exploring south. And okay, more cavern, a small cavern with something going on here. And while that's going on, Alexander and Raymond going up north. That stuff on the ground, because he looks around, yeah, that does all connect up here. That stuff on the ground are ladders. They're just laying on the ground flat. But off to the west, there is this square hole. It goes down deeper than we can see. And then there's more stuff up north from there. So we tell them, hey, we found something down here. So they come down. And what we have is an actual wall in the cave. A circular hole. And on the other side are fragments of a stone door, right? And so we, creeping through, take a look, and on the other side is just a small cavern. Right? There's a little rise, then a flat space, and there's two pillars against the far wall, and there's a space in front of us that's clear of everything. Although there are some drag marks there, we find eventually. And then on the other side of the space are armor, weapons, spears, swords, skeletons. So there's some kind of a combat that happened here. But there's something unusual fact that there's this blank area before it, right? So there's some investigation going on. That's how we find the drag marks. Runt, as he crossed over the broken pieces of the stone door, right? Sees glittering glyphs, silverish glyphs. So put together, this thing was probably awarded, and this is a seal, and this is the doorway to another place that the guildsman warned us about. There are glyphs, silver glyphs on the pillars. The pillars are broken, right? So the top part's been broken off, and they're laying on the ground, like half a pillar, right? Because that's built into the wall. Excuse me. And Raymond recognizes these glyphs as being elvish. Ancient. He can't read it, but there is some. Okay, that's obviously a name. And it's Stolf. And Stolf is not an elvish name. Let me check where I am. Okay, so as that goes on, Wes creeps forward right to the line of where it's clear, and the other side is combat stuff. And he goes down, he's taking a look, and he's trying to. He wants to take a look at the decorations and markings on, the hilts and the pommels of the swords and on the armor itself to try and use his history skill to determine, how old is this stuff, kind of thing. He can't really tell, but it's obviously not modern. Wes actually reaches forward and grabs a broadsword to get a good look at it. And it turns out the blade of this thing is actually steel. So that gets a bunch of people's attention, and Alexander asks if there are any great swords out there, and sure enough, yeah, there's one right there. So he eventually makes an attempt to try and. Wes doesn't use broadswords, but I think Raymond does. Raymond asked if he could have it since he can use it, kind of thing, and Wes hands it off to him, no problem. And Alexander asks to borrow the broadsword to try and grab the greatsword and kind of drag it out of the danger zone into the cleared area, and is not successful with that. Okay. Okay. Now everyone hears a voice. It says, "Form the pattern of dominion, and you may enter." Runt kind of freaks out, going, "We don't know where this place is or where it goes." And after that, the voice then says, "This is the fourth corner of the circle of Stolf. Form the pattern of dominion, and you may enter." At that point, we decide we're going to vacate the area. And Alexander is struggling with getting the great sword free. And so we're all outside the thing. But eventually, Alexander does get the great sword free, so he takes off with it. It turns out not to be a steel sword, but to be a silver sword, or silvered sword. And we wait a bit, see what happens. There was actually a timer on the screen. Oh, which reminds me, live plays in the description, and I capture the screen of the map and stuff. So there's zoom in, zoom out, move around kind of stuff happening. And you'll see the timer slowly ticking down. There's one thing that the GM hey, can you guys see the timer? And I'm looking for a timer, and I can't see anything. And Raymond mentions it's the bar at the bottom, right? Yeah, it's getting smaller and smaller and smaller. Okay, so after we wait a while, Raymond decides to sneak back in. And so there's the GM's trying to be specific. How far is he going in? Where's he going? What happens? So Raymond, steps into a certain spot and then turns around to say something. Remember right? No, he goes, and when he gets to where he was at one point previously, the glyphs on the pillars light up. And so he takes off. As he takes off, a beam of light shoots out from the center area between the pillars and hits him smack dab in the back of the head. It did enough damage to burn a hole in his helmet and do 1 point of damage to his skull. But then there's that expansion effect that happened with the guys with the chest that did not a bunch more, but did more damage. But not enough to knock Raymond out. Almost, but not enough. So Raymond quickly heals himself, and we start searching the rest of the cavern. And up at the top, in the north, there's an alcove that goes down, and there's a statue at the end of this thing. And this time, Wes makes his history roll, and turns out this is a fork statue, and is covered with blood. In which case, Wes made his sanity roll because this is not a good thing. So Raymond and Tyndall get together and okay, we got to do some kind of ceremony to sanitize or there's a word, desecrate, to desecrate this evil temple thing, right? And Alexander actually is looking for tracks, and there are footprints, small footprints going down. They're not goblin footprints. And we want to check out and see if it was human blood or goblin blood, and it is in fact human blood. And then he comes out, and Wes is already out because we're watching south kind of thing. And Raymond and Tyndall are doing their sanitized worship area thing, and Runt is doing some searching around because these footsteps come up and then they stop. And one footprint is like pushed down harder than the other, so it's like they stepped up onto something. And the first thing Wes thought of was a carpet from from the Howler and those guys, right? Because that would fit right in that 10 by 10 foot square hole, right? Elevator, right? It turns out it's not. So Runt does some more searching around. He does, in fact, find giant spider tracks. So we think that this person is the giant spider rider, right? As we're waiting and Tindo and Raymond are doing their thing, spiders attack. Magical darkness is thrown. The spider rider is, in fact, a spellcaster. She charms Alexander. Wes backs out of the darkness and is going to do a hold kind. It restricts her activity to 25%, which should slow down spell casting and anything else she does. But before he can do that, she tells Alexander, "Stop him! Don't let him hurt me." So he goes to attack Wes, right? He says go for like a grapple kind of thing. However, Wes actually made his dodge. He's got a 24% dodge. He rolled a 21. So he managed to dodge that. So he was successful with the spell, but she was able to resist. She's got pretty high power, which is understandable and almost expected. But Wes is trying to get that power check. So there's another magical darkness thrown over all of us. Nobody can see anything. There's a giant spider in there with us. People just start backing out. And Wes has his we call it the flashlight. It's a light beam thing, 50 feet range. And with that, he can't see anything. So I'm not quite frustrated because magical darkness is different, I suppose. So and I had previously in a different campaign had a similar situation where the orc shaman was throwing darkness spells and my priestess was throwing light spells. We were going back and forth, light, darkness, light. And so light would cancel the darkness, so we'd have to cast darkness again to make it magical darkness, and she cast light to cancel that. And got to the point where I did like 3 or 4 times, and the shaman said, "Okay, I'm running out of magic points. I'm out of here." So it's magical light, magical darkness. There should be some kind of balance kind of thing. So I'm trying to figure out what can I do? What can I do? If I cast light, will that cancel the darkness? And that kind of thing. But eventually, I actually got a spell walls spell list, which has dispel essence. And that seems to be what will work here. So he casts the dispel essence, although the spells get like a plus 30 on the resistance roll, so it's not really not strong at all, really, rather weak. But hey, try it out. It did in fact cancel the darkness and the charm spell, but there's apparently something else out there that it didn't cancel. So when the darkness falls, so the normal light is lighting up, and flashlight for that matter too. Spiders take off, or they took off while the darkness was still up. I don't remember now, but essentially we can all see, and spiders are gone. And somebody hears somebody speaking an arcane language, so we all start to scatter. Wes shot down south. And his intent was to go south and then use his flashlight to scan the ceiling looking for giant spiders, specifically the spider rider lady, right? And everybody else scattered out and about. And she shoots off a fireball. Essentially, we see this to this hillock in the northern area and explodes there. So Raymond took some damage and Alexander took some damage. The rest of us didn't. Wes was not able to spotlight her or see her with his scan. We do hear some more skittering about, and the spiders are gone. We do a search around. Raymond heals himself. He heals Alexander. And so at that point, the GM says, this is a good place to stop because he needs to figure out what is she going to do. And we actually go out. At this point, we got to get out. So we gather up our stuff because there's a goblin body with a hole in it that we're going to drag along with us. And we go out, and then Wes and Tyndall report to the captain of the guard. We talk about the miners, the hole. It turned out he was only dead like about a week. So that was recent, which was also post the mine shutting down. So stuff going on. And we talked about, okay, we did find one of these doorway things. Vest tries to be very, very vague about the whole situation with that, because the guildsman did tell us not to mess with any doorways. And we didn't really mess with it. We were just exploring behind it. And we talked about how there were dead miners. Looks like they've broken the seal on this thing. We found some with the body with the hole in it, showing the helmet, that kind of thing. Oh, we do mention the forge statue back there and the chest. We destroyed it. Well, we were working on, doing the desecration piece when we got attacked by the giant spiders and the spellcaster. So it's not safe to go in there yet. There is an active spellcaster right down there. And, that kind of stuff. And so that's where we shut down the session. So you can figure out, what is the guildsman going to do with this information, and then what is the spider rider lady spellcaster going to do with her situation. Happy gaming.